Right, lads, I've done it. I've had Excel out, I've got the spreadsheets out, and I've calculated every fixture for the rest of the season. And who misses out on 5th spot and then misses out on Champions League all boils down to this one game tonight, City versus Villa. So the only thing really left going on in the Premier League now is the race for the Champions League spots. The title race is done. The relegation battle is pretty much over. So pretty much all eyes now on the Premier League are all on the clubs fighting for the Champions League spots. But this doesn't mean that the Premier League's become boring, because that race for them Champions League spots has become as competitive as it's ever been. There's so many clubs now battling it out. Clubs that most pundits at the start of the season ruled out any possibility of them getting Champions League. And then you've got Forest, who even most of their fans wouldn't have even had them down for Champions League. And I'm personally absolutely loving the level of competition in the Premier League this year. Now, obviously, as a Newcastle fan, and most of my subscribers are Newcastle fans, we're going to have a massive eye on this game. I do have quite a few Villa fans now as subscribers from last week's game, so shout out to any Villa fans watching as well. Really appreciate the support from everyone, whether you're a Newcastle fan or not. I know it's a mainly Newcastle-based channel, but ultimately what it's really about is building a platform, building a community where we can talk about football, not from the perspective of the big six like the mainstream media do. So if you enjoy that kind of content, if you're sick of sticking on Sky Sports News and hearing about Man United all day, even though they're quite clearly a thing of the past at this point, please remember to like, subscribe, hit the bell. But for now, we'll get on with the fixtures. Now, most of them are relatively straightforward, so I'm just going to be able to whiz through most of them. There is a few that need a little bit more context, so for them ones, I'll jump in and give you a little bit of context as to why I've come to that result. But other than that, we'll just whiz straight through them. We're going to go game week by game week, and after each one, I'll show you how the table looks, and then at the end of the season, you'll be able to see who finishes where. And then I will throw in a few variations, just so you can see how they shake things up, so stick around to the end for that. Quick note, I have included all the fixtures on the actual table when I've filled the table in, and that's just in the interest of keeping things tidy on the graphic. But obviously I'm not going to do all the fixtures for the actual video, because all them fixtures are the only ones that are really relevant are Newcastle, City, Forest, Villa, Chelsea, Arsenal. And the only reason I've included Arsenal is because they're not really focused on the Premier League, they're heavily focused on the Champions League at the moment, rightfully so. So if they do fall off really hard, they could end up in a bit of a nervy situation. So probably unlikely, but it's worth tracking anyway. And every win that I've put in, I've put down as 1-0, and every draw I've put in, I've put as 0-0. That's just in the interest of keeping it fair. I'm not going to dive mega deep and go into every result that I think could happen and try work out goal difference as well. I don't think goal difference affected it too much at the end anyway, but that would also just make it like a 30-minute long video, and we don't have time for that.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
As we go through the results, let me know in the comments if there's any of the results that you think I've got horribly wrong. And with that said, let's get into the results. So game week 1, we've got to start with the big one, City versus Villa. For this one, I'm just going to go with a draw. I can't call it, so yeah, draw. Arsenal versus Palace, Arsenal win. Newcastle versus Ipswich, Newcastle win. Chelsea versus Everton, I've gone with a draw on this one. Chelsea have been well off it recently, and David Moyes has got Everton playing like not the Everton we've known for a while anyway. Then Forest versus Brentford, I've gone with Forest win, and that sums it up for that week. Pretty straightforward week overall, aside from that City Villa game. And here's how the table looks after that first week. Game week 2, a few trickier fixtures here. So we start with City versus Wolves, go with a City win. Villa versus Fulham, I've gone with a Villa win for this one. Arsenal versus Bournemouth, for this one I've gone with a Bournemouth win. And the reason for that being that it's slap bang in the middle of Arsenal's 2 fixtures against PSG. So I don't think they're going to be particularly too focused on that game. They might rest players, and I just think that'll be a little bit of a banana skin for them, and I do think that Bournemouth will probably win that game. Brighton versus Newcastle, I'd love to say win for this game for us, but I think it probably more realistic for me to go with a draw, just in the interest of keeping it fair. Our away form has improved a bit this season, but we're still not as strong away as we are at home. Chelsea versus Liverpool, I've gone with a draw on this one, only because Liverpool have probably already won the league, I think, by that point, and Chelsea will still be fighting for something. So I just think that one could end up a draw. I don't think Chelsea have enough quality to actually beat Liverpool, so I'll leave it as a draw. And Palace versus Forest, I've also gone with a draw on this one, only because Forest have 3 games in about a week, and Palace is a relatively tough away day, and I just think that could be a bit of a banana skin for them as well. And that leaves the table looking like this. The Champions League spot there starting to look rather tight. Then on to game week 3. all relatively straightforward here. Newcastle versus Chelsea. It's at St James's Park, so I'm going with the Newcastle win. Southampton versus City. City win. Bournemouth versus Villa. I've gone with a draw on this one. It's a tricky away fixture. Bournemouth have been on fire pretty much all season, but I have balanced it out later on with one of City's fixtures that you'll see later on in the video. Then we've got Forest versus Leicester. Forest win. Liverpool versus Arsenal. I've gone with a Liverpool win there. I think both of them at that point won't really be playing for anything in the league. But yeah, I just think Liverpool will win that game. And that leaves the table looking like this. And then on to game week 4. This is another one we should be able to whiz through nice and easy. I've gone with Chelsea versus Man United. Chelsea win. Villa versus Spurs. Villa win. West Ham versus Forest. Forest win. And then we've got the only tricky one of the week, really, which is Arsenal versus Newcastle. I've gone with a draw on this one, so us getting a point. Again, as I've said earlier in the video, Arsenal aren't really playing for anything, and Arteta generally just does seem to struggle against Eddie Howe's setup. But even if we were to lose this, most of the scenarios that I've played out and calculated, it doesn't really affect too much anyway. Because the one that I've calculated in here, we've only gained a point from it anyway. I haven't given us a win. And then last fixture for that week, we've got City versus Bournemouth. So City win, just because they're at home pretty much. And with that being the end of game week 4, this is how I've got the table looking now. That result against Arsenal's got it starting to look a little bit shaky for us, but we're still in the Champions League spots. And with that said, we'll get on to the final game week 5. So I said earlier I had a result that balances out the Villa result for City, and that's this one. Fulham versus City. Fulham versus City, I've gone draw. I think this could be a tricky away fixture, but even if you were to give Villa the win earlier and then City this win, obviously it doesn't change anything then. But I do think these are two fixtures that could be a banana skin for either team, so ones that I think to look out for. Then we've got Man United versus Villa. Villa win. Newcastle versus Everton. I think this could be our decider. As I said, David Moyes has got Everton playing much better. A bit more of a tricky team to break down. We are at home though, so I'm going to go with a Newcastle win, and hopefully that should give us Champions League. Then we've got Forest versus Chelsea. I think Forest win. And the last one, a little bit pointless, but Southampton versus Arsenal. Arsenal win. And that leaves the table looking like this at the end of the season. City in 5th, with Villa just 1 point behind in 6th. And that's why, if we run it back to the start of the video, where I said about this City-Villa game, that's why this game is so majorly important for them Champions League spots. Just to quickly show you, off the calculations that I've put in, if City win tonight, this is how the table looks at the end of the season. If Villa win tonight, this is how the table looks at the end of the season. So I'm genuinely buzzing for this game. I think I do want to see Villa win the game, just because I do want to see Villa make the Champions League spot and get 5th over City, just for the sake of breaking up that big 6, making the league a lot more competitive. And I just think that makes the Premier League as a whole, as a product, just better. And Villa's goal difference is considerably worse, so if either team is going to win, I'd rather it be Villa, because if it goes down to goal difference, they're not going to catch us. Obviously, it is the Premier League, and all the fixtures that I've just done there, none of them could happen. It's that unpredictable at the best of times. We could go ahead and lose to Ipswich this weekend. Hopefully not, because the channel's just reached the threshold for monetization, and I can't imagine me reacting to losing to Ipswich is going to go particularly well when my channel is reviewed for monetization. Because if we're losing to Ipswich and I'm reacting to that, there is going to be F-bomb after F-bomb after F-bomb. But yeah, this is just my prediction. Let me know in the comments who you think is going to finish in the top 5. If I was to really get pushed for a winner tonight out of Villa and City, I think I want to go Villa. Probably just hopeful thinking, but also maybe just something to do with how well they played against us, and City really kind of haven't been at it this season as well. But then I guess City do have the home advantage. And even though I've just said City haven't been at it this season, they do always turn up when it gets to the business end of the season. But if Villa can do City, then that would mean my top 5 at the end of the season would be Liverpool, Arsenal, Forest, Newcastle, Villa, which would be absolute best case scenario for me. I think that'd be great. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy the video, please remember to drop a like, subscribe, turn the bell on, and I'll see you on the next one.